help me work this out. There are some people in the world who feel like the church is a little too tied to their buildings, that all the things that they're supposed to be doing to be church somehow get focused upon or stuck in the building, and that the church isn't out enough in the world. Now that's church people and not church people alike, just people everywhere. So somehow we have to balance that, because the churches are the center of worship, the center of Christian life for a congregation. And so there has to be a balance somehow between those two realities. But let's go a little further now. There are some people who feel that some churches are too much out in the world and not in their church enough, that they're not valuing the idea, the symbolism, the focal point, the touchstone, the homeness that a church building represents, and what all the memories that happen in that place represent. So here's the thing. The coronavirus, back when everything locked down completely, when we were all pretty much in quarantine, well, it eliminated church buildings from use because they weren't allowed to be met in. And bishops and archbishops and priests and pastors everywhere had said it's not good to meet, and rightly so. So the churches were locked down. So we didn't have the church to focus on that way. The problem is at the same time, we didn't have the ability to be out in the world either, because everyone was told pretty much, stay at home. Don't do it just for you. Do it for everybody around you, including yourself, including your household. And so we couldn't do the kind of mission and outreach work, the caring for the community that the church is really called to do. So the balance was thrown off again, but not to either side. It was just taken away altogether. Well, now the balance has kind of started to stabilize a little bit, that some buildings can be open, some church buildings, and some church congregations have chosen to open, but we're not meeting together in the same way. And yet, because we're struggling to understand how to meet, the idea of outreach, the idea of caring for others in our community, well, that theoretically is left off the church agenda right at the moment. The great thing is, though, is that the church is not agendas or meetings set by a committee or a list of target things to acquire or to do or to look after. The church is people. And as many people know, there's been countless examples of how we've looked after each other, how the hungry have been provided for, how the poor have had their needs met. Certainly it's not been a perfect time, and our society has not looked after that really well. But here's a chance now for the church to really think about what it does, why it does it. Maybe think about what it doesn't do, and ask the question, why aren't we doing it? It might be for a good reason. So here in our parish, just for example, all our programs have been shut down earlier too, and we have a chance now to start up the things that need starting up. But as always, the question is not how is the building going to make it work? The question is, what is God doing around us in our communities? And how are we being invited by God to join into that? What are the needs in the community? Not the needs of the church building, not the needs of the property, not the wants and desires and the preferences of the church people. Because we're called to be a people of service. We're called to give a cool cup of water, an example of refreshment and relief to people. And we get the chance to think about all of that again, because it's all kind of just beginning to start in some ways, continuing in others. But right now, while things are still a little not like we're used to, it's a great time to rethink all that. Thinking can be hard in the summer heat, but when things are a little quieter, it could be the best time to think about things. So I ask us, all people, what does the church need to do for our communities? And in doing so, honoring God. The churches believe that we honor God by looking after people, by doing as Jesus has taught us, by looking after the needs around us. How can we best do that?